Summit Hill Day training session. I'm Will Knuckles. This is Sarah Schwartz, my partner in this endeavor in the organizing sense of things, although there's been a number of people involved in the planning and organizing for this. We'll introduce a few of them at the moment. I just wanted to welcome you to this session and talk about the fact that we're doing something that is only thing that has come close to this before was the prior Blue Vision Summit in terms of the number of meetings visited in one time by the ocean community. This time around, we're looking at a couple hundred people who've agreed to spend their day tomorrow trying to be effective communicators on the Hill and meet with our elected officials and their staffs, as well as 70 office visits, which is remarkable, as well as leadership office visits in both the House and Senate. So we are staged to have an outstanding day tomorrow, both communicating our ideas as well as doing an excellent job of listening. And Charlotte Vick will talk to you a little bit about that tomorrow morning when we get things kicked off. But at the moment, I just wanted to pass things off to Sarah to talk a bit about how the flow is going to work.
Thank you. Can you hear me? I'm really short. All right. Again, thank you everyone for signing up and participating in a really important day tomorrow. Hopefully everyone grabbed a folder on their way in. If not, there's a box right up here at the front, and there's also a box about in the middle of the room. Make sure everyone that's participating tomorrow has one of those folders. Just quickly wanted to go over what is in the folder right now, though you'll be getting some more information. This first sheet is just meeting tips. So you're going to hear about a lot of great things you can do tomorrow to make sure that your visit is successful. But here's just a reminder that you can look over on your own. And then you also have some talking points. They're just some broad general points that we want to make sure we hit tomorrow as we communicate and have this unity from all of these 70 visits. We want to be having a very similar themed message, but encourage you to bring your own local and regional specific points across as well in those meetings. And then the last page, or second to last, very important. This is your map. So let's talk about how the flow is going to go. We are first meeting at 9 o'clock tomorrow in the EPW hearing room, which is room 406 in the Senate Dirksen building. We are going to kick it off there just to get everyone together, make sure you have any of your final logistics covered, and we're going to hear from a few people that have either previously worked on the Hill or are currently working on the Hill of just how things generally go from their perspective. And again, as Will said, Charlotte Vick will also talk about some effective communication strategies as well. And then we will be out of there by 9, or by 10, I mean. And we have all these meetings already confirmed for you. We'll break out later during this session and talk about specifically what meetings you're going to be going to that your fabulous regional coordinators have already set up. And during that time, I am going to be your resource center. So if anything comes up during the day, say you get lost, you run out of materials, you have a question, during the morning from 10 to 10:30, I'll be at the Hart Senate cafeteria. It's a smaller one down there. And then during the afternoon from 12 to 2:30, I'll be in the Longworth cafeteria. So you can always find me there if anything goes crazy, random, astray. I will be there to help you out. Or if you have a long break and you just want someone to hang out with, I'll be there too. And then we will end the fabulous day with a great closing reception at the Mott House, which is also on your map. It's just behind the Capitol building. Please come. Feel free to invite, anyone that you know in the area. It's open to the public to just hear about what happened that day, and hopefully we'll have a few folks from the Hill staff also come as well. So that is pretty much the logistical part. I want to go ahead and introduce you guys to the amazing people that have scheduled these meetings. David, you have a question?
Do you have a cell phone number for looking for you?
I do. Everyone ready? It is 281, Houston number, 770-7209. 281-770-7209. And I'll have the congressional handbook with me too, so if there's any location questions you have, I'll be ready for you. Second question, David.
Yes, if I've lost my fabulous Capitol Ocean Day sticker that I want to wear tomorrow, where can I get more?
I will have all the materials you need. Anything. And I think, David, you should probably wear 3 just in case one falls off. All right. So if I have all the regional coordinators are here, could you please come up and just quickly introduce yourself and the region that you are coordinating. And again, you'll see them in about 30 minutes when we actually break off into our regional delegations and you get to talk to them about their specific meetings they have confirmed. So please come up. Excellent.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Vicki Nichols Goldstein, founder of the Colorado Ocean Coalition and member of the Blue Frontiers campaign. David, thank you. I did remember that part. And we are representing Colorado.
I'm Charlotte Vick, and I am representing the Pacific Island areas, so we will be hoping to talk to not only people in the Hawaii delegation, but also the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas, Guam, and American Samoa.
Hello, I'm Paula Walker, and I am representing the Pacific Northwest region, which is Oregon, Washington, and Alaska.
I am Jennifer Thompson, and we will be representing New York and New Jersey.
I'm Basma Mohammed, and I'm over New England region, so Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. We didn't have any New Hampshire participants that we know of. If you are here, come see me, and we'll try to set up a meeting first thing in the morning.
I'm Jackie Dragon, and I'll be representing Northern California all the way down to the Santa Barbara region.
Hi, I'm Roxy Carter, and we'll represent Southern California, so LA, Orange County, and San Diego counties.
Hi, I'm Johanna Polsenberg, work with the Gulf Restoration Network, and have the honor to help organize representatives from the 5 Gulf states: Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and Texas.
Again, a big thank you. You guys have done tremendous work. One last thing, so the materials you have in your packet right now is not the complete materials that you're going to be going to the Hill with. As soon as you break out into sessions, which is not now, so don't get too excited, I have the full list of meetings down here as well as a leave behind letter that is just coming from the summit as a whole. That's going to tell you, or tell the office who we are and why we're there, and then also a fact sheet on the National Ocean Policy for them as well. But we'll get those later whenever we decide who's going to exactly what meeting, so we have at least one person from each meeting has that leave behind packet. All right. Thank you very much.
So now we're going to introduce a couple of our speakers. We're going to start this off with people that are a little more like the general part of the crowd here, which are people that have started with a background that is not a Hill lobbyist formal background, but have morphed from that generic background into becoming pretty effective communicators. Some of which you've done through the Blue Vision Summit process itself, some of which have kind of come organically through other processes, but both who've sort of come from, like I said, a more standard, I think, background where they're just effective people at conveying messaging and how they've been able to retool that and make it effective on the Hill. So I think we'll start with a couple of those anecdotal situations. And Mike Dunmeyer from Ocean Champions, if you want to give us a start, and then we'll follow up with Jim Toomey, a renowned artist.
Thanks, Will. As Will alluded to, I was not always an evil lobbyist. I, in fact, for many years before this, was an evil business guy. In my past, I built organizations that did strategy, finance, marketing, some operations, some technology. So I came into this knowing an awful lot about what it takes to operate a business and how a business needs to run. But I did not know a whole lot about how the Hill operated and how to move things through the legislative process. But it's been about 2 years now, and I believe that I've gotten to a point where I'm able to have an impact, and hopefully a positive one. I think that I've been fortunate in that I've been around some great teachers. Dave Wilmot, who founded Ocean Champions, has been doing this for 2 decades. He's got a lot of expertise and great instincts around this. And Patrick Collins, who's our lobbyist on the Hill all the time, is just as natural and is in touch with the vibes of the rhythms of the Hill as anyone I've ever met. So it was great to be around these guys, but I also think what I was able to see early on was that some of the traits and behaviors that defined successful advocacy were really the traits and behaviors that define successful people in the organizations that I'd been a part of before, and really in any kind of social organization. And so I think that it's there and it's reachable and you can all do very well. And just maybe to clue you in a bit on this and show you how I should have figured it out even sooner, when I was just getting started, I asked Patrick Collins, who's been on the Hill for years, Patrick, it's really important to me to understand the rules of the game, so can you recommend a book to me that would give me a background in kind of the procedures and processes of the Senate and the House? And once Patrick got up from rolling around on the floor laughing and dried his eyes from the hysterical tears that were out there, he recommended a couple books that they were about politics and they were about relationships. So I've got a couple things to throw out there for you guys. There are things that I found to be true early on, and I think the more that I do this, the more that I continue to see them reinforced as truths that can help. So first of all, anytime that you're trying to convince someone of something, it really helps to start where they are, not where you are. And that's one in terms of the goal setting for where you can hope to have someone. There are people like Senator Whitehouse earlier who are great champions. They're going to be right there with you. There are others who are on the fence and have different competing interests in their district, and they need to be responsive to all of those interests. And then some, again, largely driven by the demographics in their district, that are going to be on the other side of this issue from you guys, and hopefully we can get them to neutral. And that really is the goal, not a champion, but getting to neutral. It also defines how you want to be talking, because you all know, I think, the districts and the states, the offices, and hopefully the members that you'll be talking to. You understand the things that are driving the interest in that district, and you understand some of the messages that they're going to be hearing. They may, and their staffers may, be coming into those meetings with certain preconceived notions based upon the people that are already talking to them. So it's important to understand how they might be coming into this meeting and start the conversation there. Now, don't get me wrong, I think it is going to be great for them to hear broadly that there are a large group of people out there that believe, for example, that the national ocean policy is important to support because it can do an awful lot of good for our oceans, and we believe that healthy oceans are fundamentally important. But somebody might be thinking about fishermen in their district, and so for those people, you'd want to be talking about how healthy oceans are going to support healthy fisheries and lots of fishing jobs. We care about the ecosystem. They care very much about the jobs. We want to be where they are, not necessarily where we are. That's what gets heard. Second thing is be very considerate. The staffers that you're going to be talking to are passionate people that are here because they want to make a difference. They're also incredibly overworked. They've got an immense amount of things that they're trying to get done in a given day. So time is their premium. It is an exquisite commodity. So I think it's human nature to want to, when you get into this room, you're meeting with the staff of a member of Congress. That's a big deal, and many of you have come a long way to do this, and so you want to take the opportunity to tell them everything that you know. I understand that, and that's kind of what a lot of people would want to do, but it's, I think, more important to take the view of you're not there to tell them everything that you know, you're there to be heard, and you'll be heard a lot more effectively if you can get your message across as concisely as possible. Stick to the main talking points, be respectful of their time, engage them, but don't overstay. Recognize that they've got a lot that they've got to do. The next thing I'd like you guys to consider is that these folks talk to a lot of people. All day long, they've got people coming to them talking on issues, many issues that are going to be similar to the ones that you're talking about, many people making demands of them, sometimes extreme demands. You can differentiate yourself by offering to help. They don't often hear that, and look for ways to be helpful to them. It's great to ask the question, how does this issue play in your district? What are you hearing? Which gives them a chance to talk about some of the other sides that they're getting to and which we need to account for. And you might be able to say, for example, if there is, there are fishermen that are concerned about comprehensive marine spatial planning as something that would knock them out of certain areas where they might want to fish. You might want to say, well, you know, that's interesting because this actually is a conduit for them to have a voice in the process, to have a say in something where they might not otherwise have been able to have a say. So it would be a good conduit for them. You may not know the answer. This could be something that you come to later on, but if you engage them that way, you can find some of those opportunities, and you might be able to say in this example, hey, there are some fishermen that I know in district that really believe that this is a good thing. Would it be helpful to have some of these fishermen get in touch with the ones that you're hearing these other things from? You'll know it if you see it, and it's got to be a credible opportunity. But if you can find an opportunity to help, that's gonna set you apart. It's a good thing. Fourth, say thank you. If you're aware of the member of Congress, the senator, or the representative having made a positive comment about oceans or introduced a bill or had an effective hearing where they were kind of on your side, thank them for that. They need to know that you're paying attention, and they need to know that it's appreciated. Thank the staffer for their time. As I mentioned earlier, it's premium. And then when you get home, do a handwritten letter with another thank you. And if there's anything you can follow up in, you know, from the meeting, an item that came up that you didn't know about that maybe you could have found out for them, stick a little note in there, and that's helpful. You can also note, you know, me and the 2,000 members of my organization really appreciate your work on oceans, and we want to help you. Once you've done that, stay in touch. Don't hound them, but when something happens that's positive, write a little note. Thanks very much. Something that pops up that you're concerned about, write a little note. They need to hear from you. And the last thing that I want to put out there for you guys is don't sweat trying to come up with the perfect words. Don't worry so much about, you know, trying to memorize a script or do it exactly as it might have appeared on a piece of paper. You are all passionate, informed ocean activists. If you get out there and you speak the truth and you do it from your heart, you're all going to do just great. And good luck.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I'd like to reiterate everything Mike said. I'm coming at it really from a completely inexperienced point of view. My first lobbying experience was 2 years ago at the Blue Vision Summit. And that's part of the reason Will asked me to come up here, because I'm proof that anybody can do this. I think, first of all, it's important that you be a constituent. I found myself in some of the meetings where, you know, I'm from Maryland and we're in the North Carolina office. So it doesn't really carry a lot of weight if you're not from the state, if you're not an active voter, if you're not active within that state's community. So it's important to do that. I think it's important, again, to respect their time. So you have to understand the issue and have to understand where they stand. You can't come marching in really, you know, upset about an issue and then realize that, you know, the legislator actually voted in favor of what you wanted. So you have to kind of backtrack and things like that. So you really sort of need to know your stuff. But I came into it a couple of years ago a little bit cynical because, you know, you think of the alligator shoe lobbyists who pretty much, their reputation is that they run Washington, right? And I think maybe that's partly true, but it's only because they're up there every day and they do it and they're professionals and they know how to do it really efficiently. But if you come in as just an ordinary person like me, you are actually a breath of fresh air for them. You're a reality check, you're a ground truth for them. And it's especially important for them to hear from you and to hear sort of the ordinary perspective on that. You know, other than that, you know, respecting their time, just not babbling on and on about something, but understanding that they really are very busy people. I'm trying to think of anything else. I just, you know, I think that's it for me.
While it is not our intention to make you polished lobbyists because it'll lose some of that fresh feel that Jim was just talking about, we did want to give you a little bit of a formalized session on nuts and bolts on effective lobbying techniques. And Richard Charter is an expert at this, and he gives longer, very in-depth, knowledgeable lessons, but we're crushing him down on time, and he will fit in as much as he can.
I was asked to talk about how I became a lobbyist. I ask myself that every couple of days. I was taught as I was growing up to ask for what you want because people can't read your mind. And even when you're a small child, you have to learn to articulate your needs. And I grew up in the country, and there weren't too many people around, so you really did have to find somebody and ask for what you wanted. And I think that was what led me to understand that you could actually ask and receive. And so I think all of you deserve a lot of credit for signing up for this part of the Blue Vision Conference, because I do believe it is the most important part of the conference. We all have a lot of heartfelt love for the ocean, and we've just spent in 2.5 days of loving sharing of that feeling for the ocean. But unless we make change, I mean, the world may have ended yesterday, but Congress is still in session. And the world actually ended up in Congress last November, as far as we could tell on the House side. And so they require a little bit of extra assistance. I was living on the coast of Northern California in 1976, minding my own business, doing silkscreen on levels of glass. And I was not political. I had been political during the 80s and during the 60s, but I dropped that and came back to just live on the beach and hang out. And I found out one day that something called the Bureau of Land Management was going to drill for oil in front of my house. And I started a small NGO and accidentally got hired by city and county governments in my region to come to Washington and lobby for them. And I had no idea what that was. I got on a very late night Northwest Airlines airplane that stopped in Minneapolis where some children were adopted in the airport, and got on another airline and landed here in the middle of the night and put on a three-piece suit that I had bought and promptly got lost in the tunnels in the basement of the Capitol building. And I went to my senator's office, who was on our side in these issues, and a staffer there said, well, you know, we have this extra desk in the back room, and there weren't all these lobbying laws then. And he said, just, there's a phone, and nobody's using that desk. And I said, well, what am I supposed to do? And because I've been instructed to stop offshore drilling, and they told me they didn't think it was actually possible, but they sent me back here anyway. And he said 3 things. He said, call people, make an appointment, show up, and explain it. And make sure you see the right people, see the staff, because they have more focus and intelligence than the boss usually. And be on time, because if you're late, they will have left and gone to help their boss vote or walk them to their car or whatever they do up there. And so I started doing that for 32 years. And the result is that I am blamed or credited for a 27-year offshore drilling moratorium that protected the Pacific coast, the Atlantic coast, Bristol Bay in Alaska, and the Gulf Coast of Florida. And it was actually millions of other people, including probably many of you in this room. But one thing that I learned, the most important single thing I learned, is when you make these lobby visits, you are beginning a relationship with a human being. This is a very impersonal town. It will not be your last visit, hopefully. You will hang out with that person and become an information source for them until they are replaced with another staffer, who then you will need to program again. Communication is everything. I have learned that 3 bullets or 5 bullets can be memorized by someone when you're talking to them, but not any other number. 3 bullets or 5 bullets. I don't know why that is. 10 just blows them away. 1's not enough. 2 is disorienting because it's an even number. But 3 bullets or 5 bullets will do it. There is a ongoing communication that will continue with phone calls if you set this up right. And so you really want to establish this friendship is really what it's about. I thought this was complicated. It's not. It's just a way of making friends. There are 3 rules. Be right, be brief, and be gone. They now have little beepers and little you know, everybody's glued to some kind of small electronic device. It used to be that the bell went off like when you were in school, and they would see the bell out of the corner. When they start looking away from you, you're done. It's time. And so you want to get the hell out of there. In the House, it's a little different because the focus is a district. So understand their district before you walk in. Sometimes you walk in and there's a map of their district on the wall, or there are pictures of some iconic, if you got the St. Louis Arch on the wall, you kind of know where you are. But in the Senate, it's a whole state. And so there are different dynamics, there are different committees, and educate yourself a little bit about what committee they're on, a little bit of their voting history. You don't need to do a whole bunch of, you know, science, but know who you're talking to. And you have a sort of a unique opportunity. This was an open government. The thing that impressed me when I first came here is there was no security. You could walk in any door. You could walk in through the basement of the Library of Congress Annex and pop up in the Cannon Building. And I thought, what a great country that you can walk in and see your congressperson, or at least get in their office and talk to their staff. Don't let the metal detectors freak you out. We have to have those now, but you can still walk in a democracy and talk to people who are going to influence the future of the ocean. And that's what you're going to be doing tomorrow. If I stayed on my beach, this is my beach, and didn't go to that little building that popped up on my horizon, my beach would be gone. I mean gone in the way that I know it. So I thank you for coming here to do what you're doing, because the only way you're going to make change is to make change. And if whatever you're working on, whether it's national ocean policy, offshore drilling, whatever it is, whatever the constellation of marine issues, fish, if it's in the US, they're making policy about it up on Capitol Hill. In the House of Representatives, they are not a dominant paradigm that is our friend right now. But that doesn't mean that they won't understand what you're talking about. If you find yourself in a hostile office, an office where they're clearly not on your side, what you want to do is learn more than you give away. I noticed in the appointments there are some offices that are not our friends. You are not there to negotiate. That will be done by people much more powerful than you and I. But learn what you can, share with them what you think is useful, but don't give away anything in terms of strategy or how many or what's going on. The Senate's a little different. The Senate last Wednesday failed to agree with a horrific offshore drilling campaign that's going on right now in the House of Representatives that would open everything from Santa Monica Bay to Acadia National Park to Bristol Bay in the Arctic to drilling, and the Senate said no for now. They'll probably take that up again in a couple of weeks if we're not careful. National ocean policy lends a predictability that even the developers have a sympathy with. So you don't need to be specific about national ocean policy. I certainly wouldn't call it ocean zoning. That's kind of a bad word and kind of drums up ideas of zoning departments at home. But national ocean policy in a sort of nebulous kind of way that will later be determined exactly what it looks like actually has cachet even to the development community because it gives them predictability. We rank the votes, so you want to leave and fill out basically a lobby report. If you visit an office, you give them a 1 through 5. If they're a champion and they're already on our side, they're a 1. 2s and 3s and 4s are in the middle. 5 is hopeless Neanderthal, and you probably shouldn't have gone there in the first place, but since you did, at least you can read. This is what we call read back. Now, a lot of staffers are trained to say, I don't know how my boss is going to vote on that. It's a recording that's programmed into their head in the first training. But you can get a sense, even in those offices, how they're going to vote or what they're going to think. Or you can get a sense of the arguments that would be convincing to them going forward. Because again, this is a relationship. If you can become an information source to that office where they call you up and say, gee, you know, there's this bill, what do you think? That's your goal. That gives you time. One thing I want to say is when you get home from all of this, lobbying's not over. There's Hill lobbying, which is what you're going to do tomorrow, and then there's grassroots lobbying, ways to talk to their office in the district, ways to make press, ways to do other things. On June 25th, we have one of those opportunities. It's called Hands Across the Sand. If you go to handsacrossthesand.org, one word, handsacrossthesand.org, on June 25th, we are going to reprise what we did last year. There's a gentleman who owns 3 restaurants in Florida who came to see me in Sonoma County about 3 weeks ago, named Dave Rajkal, and he invented 32 events, 32 countries, hundreds of events, tens of thousands of people last year in response to the Deepwater Horizon blowout. And this year, on June 25th, it's probably going to be more countries. I mean, we got Belize, we got New Zealand, we got countries all over the world. If you look at handsacrossthesand.org, when you get home, you will be able to very easily, I mean, these are almost do-themselves events, do an event that will, there's one here in Washington at the White House already put together. You can do an event that will be visible in your local media, and together, if they all line up together, people joining hands on the beaches facing the ocean around this country, those fires will all burn together and become national news, depending on what else happens in that. If the world doesn't end that day, you will probably have a media event. So thank you all for coming, and this is the most important thing, to change the world one congressional office at a time. Thank you.
Quite the exit. Thanks, Richard. Well, with one small tweak to what Richard was saying about openness in government, there is oh, thank you. Actually, Sharon, come on up, back up, because we're about to have you explain what we're doing next. There is one small tweak to the you can walk in anywhere, which is leadership offices, which tend to be a little more tightly controlled. We have 3 outstanding opportunities tomorrow to meet with leadership. We actually have a combined meeting with the House Minority Leader, Speaker Pelosi's office, combined with Steny Hoyer's office. He's the minority whip in the House of Representatives. That's now become a combined meeting at 11 o'clock, but we can only take 20 people. So, and we have to have those names in advance. I need those names tonight of the people that are interested. I would love to have volunteers, but you've been doing a lot of networking while you're here, and you've met a lot of interesting companions along the way. And if you have people that you think should be in those, make sure to draft them and get them to those meetings as well. So I'm taking the names. There is one person that sort of trumps my opinion on this. That's David Helvarg, too, so you could lobby him as well if you're trying to practice some of these lobby techniques about who gets to get into that meeting. Then there's a smaller meeting in the afternoon at 1 o'clock over in the Senate. We're meeting with Harry Reid's office. That only has room for 10. It's just these are just space constraints, by the way. The rooms are literally only that large for the 20 in the morning and the 10 in the afternoon. So please see me after the end of this session, not immediately after this, but after this is completely done, or at the evening cocktail reception, and express your interest, and we will make sure to get you on the list. So, there we go.
So, yes, and then one taped up. There's two sides. One is kind of that larger image, which includes the closest metro stops. So if you know of folks that are in the area, you want to take the red line, which will take you to Union Station. It's just a couple blocks north of the hill. You can also go to the Smithsonian stop, I believe, in Capitol South, which is on the orange blue. Okay, since it is a weekday, it'll probably take you 30 minutes or so on the metro to get down there. And then once you're from the stop to the Dirksen building is about a 10-minute walk. Okay, so I'm going to first ask. 10 to 15. So probably an hour beforehand. Yeah, that would be good. Yes, meeting at 9. And some of the meetings start at 9:30, 10. This is not one of those things where you need to be there from 9 all the way to 10. Leave to make sure you're on time to your meeting. That's more important than the morning opening reception. So I'm first going to ask the regional coordinators to go ahead and stand up and kind of get geographically in the room, and everyone can see your faces one more time. And then once they're all set up, we will ask everyone else to join them.